So, at the end of last month, I decided to do an early review of a pair of Travis Scott Fragment Jordan 1s. Well, I've never quite had so many negative comments and call-outs saying that the shoes were actually fake. Well, I've actually been to DHgate and purchased a pair of actual replicas so we can do a little comparison. Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel Kings Down Roots. My name is Matt Rideout, R-I-D-O-U-T, and today we're going to be comparing two different pairs of Travis Scott Fragment Jordan 1s. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer about this video. Firstly, I am definitely not trying to deceive anybody with this video or the content. I firmly believe that the sneakers that I bought back in April 2021 are genuine, they are real. However, I am fully accepting the fact that there is no way to know 100% because I've not purchased them directly from Nike or Travis Scott. Now, the plug that I used to purchase the sneakers is very well known in the right circles and actually supplies a lot of the main resellers in the US and the UK. So I'm getting it from the same places as these guys. I'm also personally not brand new to the game either. I've been in the fashion industry for about 10 years and I've been writing about real or fake sneakers since about 2015. So I have some experience, but I'm definitely no expert by any means. And finally, I am absolutely sure that the pair that I've bought from DHgate are fake because they cost me £90. So what we're going to do then is go through the different sections of the shoe and compare the two versions. Obviously, I'm going to refer to the pair that I bought in April as the real pair, and the ones that I've just bought recently are the fakes. So that's what we'll see in the comparison. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's just get straight on with the comparison of the Travis Scott Fragment Jordan 1.
First, what we'll look at is the shape of the shoe, and you can tell straight away by looking at the left pair, which is real, that the ankle shape is much more rigid, it's got more shape to it, whereas the fake pair on the right, it just doesn't have any shape at all. It's actually very flimsy. That's a big giveaway straight away, so definitely look out for the shape of the shoe. The second part we'll look at are the laces, which is another real easy way of spotting a pair of fakes. The real pair will come with 3 extra pairs of laces, the white, pink and blue. They also come with a black as standard, which come tied with the shoes. You do get other colours with the replicas like red and brown, but I assure you on a real genuine pair you do not get these colours, even though I think the red looks quite nice. The size of the bag is also something to look out for too. A genuine bag with the laces is actually ever so fractionally smaller than the replica bag, which you can see here. The real is on the left and the fake on the right. So watch out for that. And this should actually match the original Travis Scott Jordan 1 release. So the bag size is exactly the same as that. So easy way to spot that one. The outer sole is a really interesting area to look for and to spot fakes. The real pair will be a truer blue. If you look on the left, it's much more richer in colour and appearance, whereas the fake is a little bit more dull, which is quite interesting to look at. Also look out for the shine on the outer sole. A fake pair will have an ever so slight gloss to it, a gloss finish, which you can see on the right, which shines in certain lights. A real pair does not have that gloss. It's a different type of rubber being used, so definitely look out for that one. So there is a lot going on with the midsole and a lot to look for. First of all, the colour of the midsole. The real pair is ever so slightly darker than the fakes, which you can see there. Besides that, the finish on the midsole on the fake pair generally is quite poor quality. You can see here that there's a bit of blue seeping to the midsole from the outer sole. That happens a couple of times around the fakes. It's not clean looking, it doesn't look great. On the real pair, it's clean. There's no sort of blending at all between colours. Each colour is where it should be and it looks really high quality. Now the tooling code is another tell and something to look out for too. You can see it on the inside of both sneakers here on the real and fake. Now this should be in the middle or centered in the middle of that top piece above the stitching of the midsole. You can see here on the real pair it is kind of centered and it does look very sort of in the middle. On a fake pair it's very close to the stitching. You can see it's almost touching the stitching on the midsole there. And actually what you'll notice too is that some of that text is almost coming off as well, so it doesn't look very clean at all. It also looks slightly bolder than the real pair as well. The real tooling code is slightly thinner in appearance, and you can see right here it's bang in the middle. It looks kind of better like this as well, so definitely something to look out for as well. So the leather that's actually being used on these sneakers should be a tumbled or pebbled leather, which means it's quite a thick leather in appearance. Now you can see straight off the bat, the fake pair on the right has a very different appearance. If you run your finger along the toe box like this, you'll see that it does crease very, very easily. It's already almost very creased when I got it. On the real pair, if you do exactly the same, run your finger on the toe box, there is some creasing, but nowhere near the same levels as you saw on the fakes. The final thing to look for on the leather is the backward swoosh, which you can see has an ever so slight shine on the real pair. On the fakes, it's not shiny at all, it's just got a matte effect. It's very similar to the rest of the shoe. Now there's a lot of stitching on these sneakers and a lot to look out for too. First of all, the stitching pattern above the backward Nike swoosh. It's kind of at a right angle, but not exactly sharp. Whereas if you compare that versus a real pair, the corner is much more sharper. That's the only way to really describe it. It's more sort of precise. You actually see exactly the same thing on the original Travis Scott Jordan 1. It's very, very clean, very, very sharp. Now the stitching on the back of the heel is also a very easy way to spot a pair of fakes because the stitching quality is often quite poor. You can see that there's actually usually some unevenness to the stitching patterns, which you can actually see on this pair. It's actually a bit wonky right on the back. On a real pair, the spacing is very even, it's very precise, and it looks very, very nicely done. That's an obvious way to spot a pair, not just on the back of the heel, but all the way around the sneaker. The Nike swoosh is also something to look at too. The stitching on the real pair is a little bit more defined and printed into that Nike back swoosh, whereas on the fake pair, it's a little bit lighter. The heel stamps is a really interesting area to look for and to spot a pair of fakes. You can tell straight off the bat that one of these pairs, certainly the real pair on the left, is a little bit more defined. But if you look at the placement of these logos, this is the Fragment logo, you'll tell that the one on the right hand side is pretty much bang on that back blue panel, right in the middle, almost centered. On the real pair, it's actually ever so slightly closer to the top of the shoe. It's not actually centered on that back panel at all. You can also see that the logo is a little bit thicker as well. The sicko mode faces do look very similar, but there are some very subtle differences. First of all, the real pair is ever so slightly less thick than the fake pair, and it's less embossed into the back of the leather. The sicko mode face on the real pair is ever so slightly fatter too, which I know sounds really strange, but if you look at the comparison, you'll see that it is ever so slightly bigger in size. Next up, we're looking at the tongue of these sneakers because there are some very obvious and clear differences between the two. First of all, the color of the tongues look very different. The real pair is a whiter white on the material, whereas the fake pair is ever so slightly off-white or sort of sail color. Next up, we also have the Nike Air logo at the very top. If you look at that Air part of that logo, it's very near the stitching. On a real pair, what you'll notice is that it is a little bit more spaced in between the stitching and the tag. So it looks like it's almost got a bigger border around the actual tag. You can actually see the differences. The color of the blue is also different too. It's a darker blue on the real pair and a lighter pair on the fakes. If you flip that tag around, you'll notice that the tag does look okay. It does look a bit flimsy when you touch it, but besides that, it looks okay. But if you compare it versus the real one, you'll notice that the text of that fake pair is just very thick, and the real pair is a lot thinner on appearance. So check the font on the back of the tag too. You can see this very clearly in this angle. The next part is quite fun. We are actually going to use a black light to try and identify some markings. Now, these black lights you can pick up from anywhere like Amazon for £10. I'll put a link in the description down below. But yeah, we'll use this light to try and identify guidelines. Now, the guidelines are used by fakers, replica manufacturers to provide some guidance when they're actually cutting the leather. Now, these should not be visible on the real pair, but you can see these actually visible on this fake pair. You can see clearly on that white section of leather right there. there. And yeah, around the front there's a little bit too. And yeah, clearly on the inside of the shoe there's some guidelines right there. And then at the top, it looks like someone's had some real fun with this marker and just caked it on that tongue. You can see these markings all over the place. So yeah, you can clearly see that. Now on the real pair, hopefully we don't see any markings at all. So far so good. Everything looks clear. You do not get these markings on the real pairs because Nike and other manufacturers have the right machines and machinery to be able to do this at mass production. And yeah, you can clearly see that there are no markings on this shoe. So happy with that for sure. So the toe box is perhaps the most contentious part of this comparison of sneakers because so many people were talking about how it looked off on my previous video. So here is a like-by-like comparison of the real versus fake. You can see that the size and shape look very different. The material that's actually being used, or the leather, is much thicker on the real pair. Now also you can see that the holes on the top look different too. They're thinner and smaller on the fake pair versus the real. And if you actually do a comparison versus the Travis Scott Jordan 1, you can see that they're very, very similar. These are fake obviously, and then the real pair you can see right here look very, very similar in size. So that's something to look out for, is the holes on the toe box. So what I wanted to do on this part is really show a comparison of what the Travis Scott Fragment Jordan 1 looks like in comparison to other Jordan 1 models, because the materials and styles do differ a lot, and as do the materials, it does change the shape of those toe boxes. So while you might think that one looks a bit thick, if you do a comparison versus other styles, you'll see that they do vary in comparison, very much so. This is probably the most like-for-like comparison versus the Travis Scott Fragment, is this patent leather, and then the mocha is kind of similar, but the material is much softer on the mocha than on the Travis Scott Fragment. Again, you can see that there is some bulking on that toe box on a real pair of the Jordan 1s with the patent leather here as well. I guess that this Zoom model is actually the most like-for-like comparison. The last part of this comparison is looking at the Jordan logo, which is at the outside upper on the top near the ankle. Now you can see on the fake pair that the actual sort of print is very sloppy. It all kind of blends into one. It's really, really hard to make out what's actually happening. However, on the real version, you can see that the actual gaps between each individual boss element, especially the basketball in the middle, is very, very clearly defined. So you can really, really make it out a lot more. It's a lot cleaner to look at as well. And side by side, you can see it right here. Very, very clear to see that there's a vast improvement on that real version.
Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Whether or not you choose to believe that these sneakers are genuine or not is completely up to you. But for those of you who are going to buy a pair early or even buy them at all, hopefully this gives a little bit of guidance around what to look out for when dealing with replicas and fakes. And on that note, that's it for me today. I've been Matt Rideout. This has been Kingsdown Roots. If you've enjoyed my video, please drop me a comment and a like down below. It really does mean the world to me. You could also follow me on Instagram. Up here I post a lot of content on there too. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.